All right. So we're back. We're back with the fabulous Linda Miller. She is a awesome producer who's done a ton of stuff. She was also head of production at Yari Film Group, which did a lot of great independent films. But she's done a lot of her own independent producing of films for many, many years, and she knows it inside and out. She deals with a lot of troublesome filmmakers because there's a lot of us in the independent film world, and she has some very, very strong ideas about independent film and the nature of it and the world of it and everything. So welcome, thank you for coming.
Thank you. Support Connection. It's going to be a great film. And Jacques.
Thank you very much. Thank you. The 6 people out there watching, thank you. So no, and you're the most
You're
important
very
6.
important 6, by the
most
way.
important 6, by the way. Yes. So Linda, what do you want to say to what do you want to start? Well, first of all, give us a little background. I gave a little bit, a little more detail about your life as an independent filmmaker.
Okay, well, to start off with, one of the important films that I did was produce one of the producers on Jacques' first feature, The Dog Walker.
So far, only. We're trying to change. So far, my only feature.
No, but I also produced some of his short films as well. So you have done a number of things.
Yes.
And I got attracted to independent film. I think years ago, the Blue Velvets and the interesting films came out, and just weird and funky, and the permission slip that Brothers McMullen and Sex, Lies, and Videotape gave a lot of filmmakers to make personal stories that look a little rough around the edges, and I was very attracted to that. And I think most of the films that I have worked on as an independent producer have all definitely been a very strong voice from, most of them are writer-directors. And I started doing it many moons ago, and I was an executive for a while, which I learned a lot about distribution and foreign sales and running a bigger film, which I think a lot of independent filmmakers aspire to get to. And it's helped me a great deal now as another independent producer, because often I'm setting up an online interview right now for my latest film, where they're interviewing the talent right this very second. And normally a publicist would do that, but I'm the publicist. You're the attorney, you're the publicist, you're the marketing person, you're all of these, and the sales agent, often now on an independent film. And so one of the things that's on my mind right now is, so we're asking people to fund movies, and I suppose this is a bad subject since we're asking people to fund movies right now, but as we fund them and they go to film festivals, then what? This is the next question. Now where do they go? Well, most big distribution companies won't pick up smaller films these days, because to put them out, the P&A, the print and advertising, are extremely expensive. So they're going to tend to go to films that either they're the really top Sundance hits or Toronto hits, and also have major stars in them. The old days of hitting, like I said, the Sex, Lies, and Videotape or Brothers McMullen, where nobody knows anything, and that going on, are just so, the chances are so small and few. So we make a movie, and everybody puts their heart and soul into it, and everybody that is a filmmaker knows and understands exactly what I'm talking about. And you get done, and you finish it, and you've used every credit card and your friends and everything you can. Now what? Luckily, hopefully you will get into a film festival and get some good reviews. And yes, of course, everybody starts with the A festivals. And then once you get rejected from those, then you're able to go to actually really nice B festivals, which a B, I don't mean lesser in value, but the top ones being all the ones that people recognize, Tribeca and Sundance and South by Southwest now, in Toronto. But I've had 2 films in Cinequest the past 2 years. It's a beautiful festival. They take care of people. They love filmmakers. Jacques had The Dog Walker there and won Best First Feature way back when we did it. And it's just a great festival that embraces film. So now what? We want to sell it, right? And you want to make your money back, so you can pay at least your investors back, and hopefully you as a filmmaker will make money to pay yourself as the writer and the director. Well, on my past recent movies, that involves foreign sales, and also Domestic distribution now covers VOD. And there's 2 or 3 really good big companies that are doing it and putting it out there. And I've had all of my films thus far have received those pickups. But the money trickles in very slowly. It doesn't come in a big check like it used to. Like, oh, here's $10 million for your, big movie, and now we're going to go. It's very slow. They'll charge you a few fees up front. You have to have your deliverables in place. So, I mean, if you're doing a movie for a couple $100,000, and there's no big stars in it, the trickle down comes very slowly. If it's a genre film, one of my films was a horror film, it tends to come in quicker, but it's hard. And so my question to all of us as filmmakers is, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? People do have to make a living, and we have to pay people, and it has to be a living salary. I mean, minimum wage for a 12-hour day on a movie is $112 a day. Well, that's not very much money. And that's probably, for a PA, and you have to pay the crew upwards of that. And if you keep doing it, which I'm doing it a lot, sooner or later people are like, hey, we don't want to be the $50 person. I mean, legally you have to pay people minimum wage and overtime, and so that ends up being a $112.50. So I know there's a big thing going on. People are saying to filmmakers, well, just don't make films right now. I'm signing up to stop making films. The distributors are overwhelmed. I don't like that answer of let's not make movies, but I think people have to understand this idea that I'm going to go out and hit it big and go for the next one might not happen. And so Jacques and I talked about it recently, and he had probably one of the best answers I've heard. Why do you keep doing this, Jacques? And his answer is because he loves it. And he loves being part of the process and being around filmmakers and filmmaking. And so I just want to say to people, if you are embarking on an adventure to do a film and you're using small amounts of money, personal monies, make sure that you really are committed and really love it, because the process really does take 2 or 3 years to come to fruition, to complete the film, to get it out, to do your festival submissions, to ride out the festival world, then hopefully get some publicity and get on board with a distributor. So
sorry for the distraction.
Sorry, you can throw my purse outside. I forgot to turn it off. Okay. So anyways, Jacques, let's hear what you have to say about these thoughts.
Well, for me, I try to not even concern myself with too much of the infrastructure of independent film. I mean, and people will get mad at me for saying that because I manage a community of filmmakers, and so you want to be messaging them in the right way. But I try to stick to like the creative stuff because I don't have the other stuff figured out. Not that I have the creative stuff figured out, but I feel more comfortable talking about that. The way films are approached from a business perspective, which includes distribution, is still a mystery to me. I mean, I hear a lot of interesting, exciting things about what you could try and what you could be doing and blah, 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 but I don't hear a ton of repeatable success stories. I hear like one-offs, like that picture did this amazing thing, or that. The only consistent success story for me revolves around the quality of the films. Not all good films perform great, but more of them do than any other part of the equation.
And so I think I want to say to filmmakers, you go, well, how do you make a great film? And I think, of course they're all subjective, but I think if you're smart, you'll give your script to a number of filmmakers that you respect, some directors, some writers, and let them read it and get some honest feedback. Chances are your first draft out isn't going to be fantastic. And I would say that's good advice, because if you're going to keep making films, or you have to make a film, make sure that it is truly your best effort. And if you don't know much about directing and you haven't directed before, you should get in some directing workshops, or you should visit some friends on a set, you should talk to an editor about how to put together a scene.
This is a question that does run across both the creative and the business aspects of filmmaking, which is that, don't try to do it all. Don't try to do things for which you have no skill or training. I mean, there are people who've never been anywhere near film that make an amazing first film. But if you dig a little deeper, you see that they've been artists, or
That's
they've been
an
photographers,
exception
or
to the rule.
yeah, or they, they have some equatable creative skill or
True.
gift
True.
that translates well to film. It's not just somebody dropping out of the sky. That happens occasionally, but very rare. And and trying to be a filmmaker, a writer, director, producer,
Well,
uh, marketer, social media maven. Trying to do it all is just very, very difficult. I know because I often try to do that. I'm doing it now, I guess. But it's better to understand your limitations and surround yourself with people that shore you up. It's community.
surround yourself with the absolutely most talented folks. Jacques and I compare stories, and it's amazing that you'll see a director out there and they want to tell the production designer how to do it, or the costume designer how to do it. You know what? Tell them you prefer your actor in a red versus a blue sweater. If I were the costume designer, I wouldn't probably have me in a red sweater against this red background, but at least have a reason to talk about it and why. And then you probably should have had that in pre-production and told the production designer not to hang a red backdrop because you wanted your actor in a red sweater. I mean, these are the things that should be all talked about and thought about before you get out there. And of course, there's last minute situations and things change, but pre-plan as much as you can. Surround yourself with really talented people, but do your homework too. Don't expect your DP to just do all your homework and tell you how to set up every shot and what to do, because then guess what? They're directing the movie. And what have you done? You just want to boss people around. Well, that's not a good enough reason, You should know how to cover a scene. You should know how to direct the actor. If people are either good tech savvy or good with actors. I find very few are good with both. So I think you need to really, you're never going to be great at both probably, but if you don't know about different lens sizes and what they portray on on film, or these days video, of course, but it's coming back to film. It's good. Find out what it is. Find out how to cover a scene. Talk with your editor and talk about what angles are going to be best to shoot that scene. And also, don't be afraid to shoot it in a oneer. And just because you shoot it in a oneer doesn't necessarily reek of low-budget filmmaking. Some of the beautiful scenes in The Godfather, which is one of my favorite movies, are these beautiful scenes, and we don't cut to close-up, and we see people. And if you're having interesting dialogue and you care about the characters, this to me is the definition of a good film. And whether or not it's someone's taste, that's different. That's why we make different films. But be committed to doing your best, and don't panic and get in, oh, I have to shoot this right now because I have to submit it to Sundance this year. That's a terrible reason to make your movie because your script's not ready, or you don't have actors in place, or whatever it is. Wait and do it the next year. Don't submit to Sundance if your cut's really not ready.
Yeah. And again, like, know your limitations. That means, know what you're capable of doing well, and surround yourself with people who can shore up the things that you can't. And also know what your resource limitations are. Don't start thinking that you can do as Mark Stolaroff was here in No Budget Film School,
Great.
Don't start thinking you can do a $4 million film with 35 cents.
We're going to shoot in a football stadium and we're going to fill it with extras. No, you are not. But you could go to a football stadium, and if you have a couple of bucks for some visual effects, and you can get 30 friends, and you shoot tight enough in the field against the thing, you might be able to cheat it well. But boy, you have to know those things. And by the way, have a good producer.
If it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a city to make a movie.
It takes a
practically.
country.
Yeah.
I mean, and then you have your post, and when your sound man says we're not good for sound, don't blow them off. Sound person, I should say. Don't blow them off. Listen to them. Because, by the way, it is expensive to fix it in post. Fix it in post? No. I mean,
especially sound.
Do not underestimate the money that you will need for post-production. And I speak for all of my post friends out there. Yeah, they'll give you a deal, but you know what? It's
it's highly technical stuff.
It's highly technical
expensive
stuff.
Machines,
it's not nearly
expensive.
as sexy as being on the set.
And we're not talking about editing. Editing's fine. You can do that on your laptop. But when you start trying to sweeten the picture and fix sound problems, and if you, God forbid, you have CGI,
and you don't want to ADR every You don't want to shoot on the busiest street and then ADR everything. It will look funny, even if you have the best person and your actor's super talented.
Unless you're doing a weird art film.
Unless you really want it to look weird.
Pretending it's a Japanese, foreign Japanese film. So what are you going to leave? What do you want to leave filmmakers? Like, what is the, we're going to wrap up here quickly because we got to pack in a lot of people in a short time. I'd just like you to touch on, like, if you had all the army of independent filmmakers all sitting in front of all directors, and you're the producer, and you want to tell
Such
them
power.
what they need to know to make not just your life but their lives and the entire process easier.
Plan ahead. Surround yourself with smart, good people. Don't change. Make sure you have a good, solid script before you go into production. Be open to changes and suggestions. You're the director. Director is God on the set. You get to call it the last shot, but listen to it. You know what? Maybe a PA might even have a good idea and be available to hear it. But then you're going to make the smartest decision and really try to get the smartest people you know around you to give you advice and steer you in the right direction. So it turns out, I talked to a director, she says, I assume if I get 30% creatively of what I'm shooting for, I'm successful. Like, you will not get everything you want. But, know the degrees of what you're willing to let go of and what you absolutely positively have to have, because all of this will, you won't be mad you didn't get it. Yes, you can do pickups, but they're expensive too. And,
You can't always get what you want.
You can't always get what you want.
You try.
Or my other thing is, filmmaking is like relationships. Compromise, compromise, compromise. And that's not an ugly word. That's how we get movies made, and it's how you get a film in the can, so to speak.
And there's one other thing I would say to the audience of filmmakers, and it's an important concept for me, obviously not for a lot of filmmakers, but if you have to yell at people or mistreat them in any way or ignore them or whatever, then you shouldn't be working with them, because gratitude goes a lot farther than any other sort of behavior that you exhibit toward your filmmaking team. And so be with people that you feel gratitude towards and express it. And if you feel like you have to lean on somebody, that's a good thing. They're there to be leaned on, but you have to be grateful. And if you don't feel like you can be grateful to somebody, which is terrible, but if for whatever reason they behave in a way where you can't express that gratitude, then you shouldn't be working with them.
Or you perhaps might not be up for the task of directing, because it is difficult. You will get 85 questions every 2 minutes, and it's overwhelming, and you have to be really up for that task. It really will scatter you unless you can do it and really do practice, because you will get much further. That bee will attract with honey.
That's right.
Rather than some other things. Yeah. And one other thing I might just add, that Jacques and I are going to get together on a panel of filmmakers and ask Mark Stolaroff and some other people so we can talk about the state of films and distribution and where they're going to go. And there's a number of people out there that are sharing different ideas, and I would love to put all of us together so we can talk about it. Perhaps field some phone calls or questions ahead of time. We do a live webcast as well. And let's have an open forum, because I don't think anybody really has the answer right now, and I'm a little discouraged with what it looks like at the moment, and I think we're in the process of change. But we're not quite there yet, and I would really embrace hearing some other people's ideas and questions from filmmakers as well.
Cool. Well, thank you,
Good
Linda
luck.
Miller.
Good luck, ladies.
I'm going to give her a hug on air. All right. We're going to stop for a second so I can bring on the next performer. It's going to be Peter MRD, playing some music. I'm just going to hook him up right now. Okay, thanks.